This video is sponsored by Surfshark. I remember the first smartwatch I ever wanted. It was called the Impulse, made by a Canadian outfit called Alerta back in 2010. And even though I'd already adopted Android by that point, this BlackBerry exclusive accessory made me seriously consider going back. Alerta would later transform into Pebble, sharing its name with the product that proved to the world of 2012 that smartwatches could be the next big thing. And it took no time at all for bigger companies to hop on the bandwagon. Samsung with the Galaxy Gear in 2013, Google with the Android Wear platform in 2014, and the first Apple Watch in 2015. The years since have been chaotic. Android Wear would be rebranded to Wear OS and undergo a painful parade of reinventions, often hamstrung by underpowered silicon and inconsistencies across its various hardware partners. Samsung got so fed up with Wear OS that it pivoted to its own software, only recently having been wooed back. Pebble got bought by Fitbit, which in turn got scooped up by Google. And in the midst of all this upheaval, Apple just kept counting money as it sold millions of Apple Watches across 8 generations of slow but steady iteration. Well, this is the smartwatch Google built to change all that. Like many first-generation products, it's too expensive, it doesn't do enough of what it promises, and it has no chance of living up to its hype. But it's also tangible proof that Google finally cares about smartwatches again. Go ahead, you can say it. The Pixel Watch looks like a round Apple Watch. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing. First of all, it stands out. Even amidst the huge diversity of style in the Wear OS catalog, there's nothing that looks quite like this perfectly rounded little ingot. Its Gorilla Glass 5 crystal and stainless steel case curving to meet with almost perfect symmetry. The flow of this design is interrupted only by a digital crown at the 3 o'clock position, a much less prominent 2 o'clock pusher above that, and the sunken mounting points for Google's new band system I'll show you shortly. Oh, and if you're a southpaw, you can now reverse all those clock values and make this a right-wristed timepiece, which is great. Smartwatches often carry the burden of needing to be both functional tools and beautiful objects, and I think the Pixel Watch rises to that particular challenge. Of course, that's assuming you buy the color that's right for you. And the champagne gold unit that Google provided me for review, with its fluoroelastomer band that's quick to discolor and made my wrist sweaty and smelly no matter how many showers I took, really wasn't doing it for me. So, on the commute between my new home and the Mr. Mobile office, I swung by the Williamsburg Google store this week and picked up a polished silver Pixel Watch, along with a dual-tone leather band that adds some Skagen-like lugs, and relief washed over me in an awesome wave. Plus, I got a sweet Google-branded slap bracelet in the deal, which taught me my wrist is 190 millimeters in diameter, for your reference as you try to size up the watch. Take my word for it, though, it's much smaller in person than it appears on video, and that has big consequences for its endurance. More on that in a minute. I also bought the watch so I could experience the setup process as a normal customer, and I'm so happy to be able to report that the initial connection failures and stutters and judders of prior versions seem now to be things of the past. You follow the prompts on the watch, you agree to the terms, you take the tutorial if you want, and it does what you expect. It connects to your phone with a minimum of fuss. Oh, and if you drop the extra $50 on an LTE model, you're given the chance to download an eSIM and choose a carrier add-on, $5 to $10 a month in my case on T-Mobile. This is the first time I've used a cellular connected smartwatch in a very long time, and for me, it's worked perfectly. In fact, I didn't even remember that I'd activated it. One day I accidentally left the apartment without bringing my phone with me, and I didn't realize it because my watch was still dutifully serving up notifications and phone calls as if I still had my phone in my pocket. It was seamless. And whether they come in over LTE or through the Bluetooth link from your phone, those notifications are another strength. The watch taps your wrist sharply when a message comes in, and when you use the crown to scroll through the content, it adds subtle clicks, like an escapement ticking over the teeth of a gear. And more importantly, those notifications are now consistent and reliable. Over a month of use with the Pixel 7 Pro and Galaxy Flip 4, the watch hasn't once randomly disconnected from the phone, as was sadly common in Wear OS 2 days. Now, I'm not going to dwell on the interface itself because I already showed off Wear OS 3 in my review of the Mont Blanc Summit 3 a couple months back. It's pretty self-explanatory anyway. You swipe up for notifications, you swipe down for quick settings, and you swipe over for tiles. Where the Pixel Watch is special, for now, is that it comes with Google Assistant out of the box, which you invoke through a long press of that 2 o'clock pusher or by saying the key phrase. This came in incredibly handy on that trip to Iceland I showed you in my Pixel 7 Pro review, because I was always asking the assistant to, convert Icelandic krona into US dollars, or tell me when the sun would set. And to my surprise and delight, it always responded quickly and consistently.
In Reykjavik today, sunset was at 5:01 p.m.
Actually, that's true of the whole software experience. Maybe it's the hefty 2 gigs of RAM or all the time Google spent optimizing Wear OS 3.5 for this hardware, but use that upper pusher to jump between open apps and you'll find that this is a sprightly, responsive, all-around reliable watch. You'd never know it was running on 3-year-old silicon. All that being said, there's still plenty of room for improvement. And I'll tell you all about it after we pay the bills. One of the things I never thought I'd miss about the internet until it was gone was that it was mostly neutral. But these days, your internet service provider can change your speed based on what kind of surfing you're doing, like slowing down your connection if you're streaming video. Or your employer can restrict certain traffic that it thinks you shouldn't be able to access. And websites can even show you different prices depending on where you are in the world, even when that doesn't make much sense. Well, I think all that's pretty shady, so I'm happy to be sponsored by Surfshark. It's a VPN that keeps your browsing private, safe, and neutral, because that's what the internet should be. Get Surfshark at the link in the description and use code MrMobile for 83% off and 3 extra months free. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. The system on a chip isn't the only thing that's dated about the Pixel Watch. Google does everything it can to hide it behind black backgrounds and dark default watch faces, but use a custom one from Facer or the new Google Photos face, or, just run a third-party app like Flight Radar, and that bezel is pretty blatant. Also, does this look a little off-center to you, or is it just me? Anyway, it's not just that it takes away from the aesthetic. I told you the watch is already really small, so settling for this much border makes the display feel even more cramped than it actually is. Especially if you remember the barely there bezel on the Moto 360 way back in 2014. That just puts this thing to shame. And the 41mm case size has other side effects. The speaker
doesn't have a lot of room for the sound to, spread out, so it's incredibly tinny, and it actually crackles painfully at high volumes. Callers said I sounded fine to them, but on my side, this is one of the worst smartwatch speakers I've ever heard.
Nor is there much room for a big battery, so the Pixel Watch ships with its always-on display disabled by default. Now, this is a personal thing, but I always enable the AOD because I believe every smartwatch should always be able to show the time, like a regular watch. But if you're not like me, you'll have better luck. The one day I turned off the always-on display, I had a quarter of a charge left after 17 hours. But turn on that always-on watch face and you'll be charging this thing every 15 to 18 hours. Or on very heavy days, 13 hours no power. Bummer. The only way I could forgive battery life like that is if you could charge it off the back of a phone. The very use case that wireless power sharing was made for. But despite the watch recognizing that it is on a charger, it doesn't actually charge, using anything but its own little puck, which sucks. And while I'm complaining, sadly, not all apps recognize the digital crown. And one time, even the phone app forgot it was there. So that feeling of inconsistency isn't entirely gone. You shouldn't have to put up with compromises like this on a watch that ranges from $349 to $399, with non-standard bands costing from $50 to $130 on top of that. Nor should you have to worry about scratching up this Gorilla Glass when other companies are using more robust sapphire solutions. Oh, and while you're shelling out, don't forget that the Fitbit Premium Suite that comes with the watch will cost you $10 a month after your first half-a-year promotional period expires. Oh, and as much as I appreciate the detail Fitbit provides about the lackluster workouts I occasionally do, I have noticed the same thing reported by Android Central and Android Police. The watch tends to overestimate how many calories I've burned and how much distance I've covered compared to other fitness platforms. And there are still features common to Fitbit wearables that are missing from the Pixel Watch, like skin temperature sensors and, until FDA approval comes in, blood oxygen readings. I really like what Google has done with the Pixel Watch. After years of just muddling through with earlier versions of Wear OS, it's so refreshing to use 3.5 on hardware that runs it so well, with all of its Google goodness intact. But I'm told Google Assistant will be coming to devices like Fossil's Gen 6 smartwatches soon, and there's a new generation of Qualcomm wearable chipsets on the way that should push performance even higher, on watches that presumably will actually be big enough to last a full day and let me see more of an email to boot. And if you don't want to wait for any of that, well, you can just buy Samsung's Galaxy Watch 5 right now, which gives you a very similar feature set and much better battery life for substantially less money. So, while I think the Pixel Watch is a necessary foundation for a new era of Google wearables and a cornerstone of the new Pixel ecosystem, I'd still encourage most folks to wait for the sequel before splashing any cash. After all, even the first Apple Watch wasn't all that great to begin with. This video was produced following 30 days with a Pixel Watch LTE review sample provided by Google and a few days with a retail LTE sample purchased by my publisher, tested on a Google Fi, Pixel 7 Pro, and a T-Mobile Galaxy Flip 4, respectively. As always, the manufacturer was given no editorial input of any kind, especially copy approval, not even an early preview. This is a review, not a commercial. Please subscribe to The Mr. Mobile on YouTube if you'd like to see more videos like this. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.